Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine for a moment, right?
Yeah.
What if the very notion of money, the bedrock of our global economy, just became obsolete? And what if the rise of AI and robotics, which, let's be honest, often sparks very real fears about job loss, about inequality, what if that was actually the key to, well, a more profound human liberation? It's a truly mind-bending idea, isn't it?
It really is a complete paradigm shift.
But today, that's precisely where we're headed. We're taking a deep dive into this really radical concept of a moneyless economy. Our journey today is guided by, well, a pretty compelling collection of sources. They delve into what's known as the Kalkiist economy. We'll be exploring its proposed revolutionary impact, its surprising real-world applications, and how these ideas are really stirring things up in one nation in particular, Nepal.
Yeah, the Nepal connection is fascinating. We'll definitely get into that.
Absolutely. So our mission for this deep dive is essentially to explore this radical economic model, understand its core principles, and really see how it proposes to harness AI and robotics for, universal human potential,
Yeah.
not just profit for a select few, which is often the concern.
Right, flipping the script on automation.
Exactly. We'll even look at a real-world revolution inspired by these very ideas and touch upon the fascinating spiritual and prophetic dimensions that some followers believe are powerfully at play here. It's going to be a journey that I think truly challenges conventional thinking.
No doubt about it. Buckle up.
Okay, so let's set the stage, shall we? You've undoubtedly observed it. We all have AI and robotics. They're reshaping industries at, well, lightning speed. You see it everywhere. Automated factories, sophisticated algorithms influencing our daily decisions. Technology is advancing at just an unprecedented pace.
It really is accelerating.
But here's the paradox, the tension that our sources really highlight. Our current economic systems, they're struggling, really struggling to keep pace, to adapt, to, fully embrace this technological leap. And the critique presented in our material, it isn't just aimed at one system. It points to pretty fundamental shortcomings in both capitalism and socialism when they're faced with this dawn of widespread automation.
Yeah, it argues neither is really equipped for what's coming.
Think about it this way. In its current form, capitalism, it tends to funnel the vast gains of automation into fewer and fewer hands. Right? A company invests heavily in AI, maybe to streamline operations, boosts efficiency, profits go up. Great for them.
For the shareholders, at least.
Exactly. But often, the downside is job displacement for the workforce. And this inevitably concentrates wealth at the top, widening that already, frankly, concerning gap of inequality. It's like we're building these incredible machines capable of creating immense abundance, but only a select few are truly benefiting from the harvest. It leaves many feeling, well, left behind, facing a pretty uncertain economic future.
A feeling of precarity, definitely.
Then you look at the other side. Traditional socialism, while it aims for greater equity, often still clings to these older monetary frameworks. Even with centralized planning, it frequently operates within the same money-driven logic. Value is still tied to currency, production quotas, bureaucratic allocation. Just under state control, maybe?
Still playing the money game, essentially.
Right. So our sources really drive home this point that both these systems, despite their big differences, essentially half-harvest the potential of automation. Why? Because, as they put it, technological abundance collides with scarcity-driven incentives that are baked right into their core frameworks.
That's a great way to put it. Abundance tech scarcity mindset.
We have the means for extraordinary abundance, potentially. Yet our systems often keep us locked in that scarcity thinking. And to illustrate this, just imagine a scenario, right, where advanced robots become capable of doing the majority of work, repetitive stuff, dangerous stuff, maybe even highly skilled work. Under our current systems, what happens? Immediately, you conjure up visions of widespread job displacement, mass unemployment, profound anxiety about how people will even earn a living. The dominant narrative, for sure, fear. And wealth would just continue to concentrate at the very top while the majority struggle to adapt to find a new place. This is the paradox our sources highlight, this fundamental misalignment between our incredible technological capabilities and our, well, often outdated economic structures.
It's a problem that seems to demand something more than just tinkering around the edges.
Exactly. It demands a radical solution.
And that's precisely what's so fascinating here. The Kalkiist alternative, it's proposed as a radically different framework, explicitly designed to resolve this very paradox. It's not just about tweaking an existing system, like you said. It's a complete reimagining from the ground up.
A total reset button.
Pretty much. Our sources tell us the Kalkiist economy is envisioned as a system where AI and robotics can be fully unleashed. But here's the key part. Not for the enrichment of a few, but for the liberation of all. This stands in stark contrast, obviously, to the critiques you just laid out.
It absolutely does.
What's compelling, I think, is how this model flips the script on those common anxieties about AI. Instead of fearing automation, Kalkiism positions it as a powerful partner. A partner in creating widespread abundance and, crucially, freeing human beings to pursue, higher callings.
Meaningful work, maybe.
Exactly, to engage in creative, intellectual, or community-driven endeavors, things that maybe don't pay well now but are deeply valuable. It suggests AI could be a force for universal prosperity and human flourishing, rather than just a threat to livelihoods.
So it encourages us to think, what if the machine age isn't about human redundancy, but actually human re-engagement with purpose?
That's the core idea, a very different lens to view the future through.
That's a powerful reframing, definitely. And it leads us directly to the core of the Kalkiist vision itself. Because here's where it gets, I think, really interesting. The Kalkiist model isn't just some vague promise of abundance down the line. It rests on three truly transformative pillars that completely redefine how we think about work, value, and resources.
3 pillars. Okay, let's break them down.
Right. The first pillar is arguably the most fundamental, a job guarantee for all. Our sources explicitly state that in the Kalkiist model, every person has a job guarantee, and consequently, unemployment disappears.
Wow, just like that. Disappears. That's huge.
It's a monumental shift from our current money-based economies, where unemployment is sadly a recurring feature, often devastating.
A constant source of anxiety for millions.
Exactly. But Kalkiism posits something deeper, that human dignity requires purposeful activity, not just subsistence handouts.
So it's not just about getting paid or getting basic income. It's about contribution.
Precisely. It's a recognition that just being provided for isn't enough. People need to contribute, to feel valued, to have a purpose. So try to imagine a world, right, where the immense stress and anxiety of job searching, of that fierce competition for scarce positions, it's just eliminated.
Hard to even picture, honestly.
Instead, every individual has a recognized and valued role to play in the collective well-being of society. And this could manifest in incredibly diverse ways. You could be coding advanced AI algorithms, or maybe maintaining the vast networks of robotics that underpin society.
Or farming.
Yeah, farming with cutting-edge technological tools, or dedicating yourself to teaching, art, nurturing the next generation. The possibilities are vast.
So the focus shifts profoundly from just earning a living to finding a meaningful role that genuinely contributes to society's flourishing.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that human beings thrive on purposeful contribution, not just consumption or, passively receiving stuff.
Okay, pillar 1. Guaranteed purposeful activity. Got it. What's next?
The second pillar is equally revolutionary, and this one might require a bit of a mental adjustment for folks. Equal hourly wages measured in time, not money.
Okay, wait. Measured in time. How does that work?
It's a profound conceptual leap, I know. The wage structure in a Kalkiist economy is rooted not in currency, but in the universal denominator of time. What this translates to, basically, is that every hour of work, whether performed by a doctor, a farmer, or a machinist, holds the same value.
Every hour. The same value, regardless of the job.
Yes. Just sit with that idea for a moment. 1 hour of contribution equals 1 hour of contribution. Period.
That fundamentally erases the hierarchies of income inequality we see everywhere then.
That's the claim. It aims to foster fairness, solidarity, and mutual respect by valuing all forms of purposeful labor equally, regardless of perceived prestige or current market demand. So the motivation for work shifts dramatically. Instead of chasing higher salaries in traditionally quote-unquote prestigious professions.
Like finance or law, maybe?
Right. Individuals are encouraged to choose work based on passion, skill, and genuine collective need. If you love to teach, or to cultivate food, or create art, your contribution of an hour is valued precisely the same as someone else's hours spent in a traditionally high-paying field like engineering or medicine.
It's a radical democratizing of labor value. It really is.
Absolutely.
That's a truly transformative concept. It makes me wonder, though, if we were to genuinely adopt this system, how do you think it would fundamentally alter our societal perception of different professions? Would we still hold, say, a corporate CEO in higher regard than a childcare provider or a sanitation worker?
That's a fascinating challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think it would force us to deeply reevaluate where we place value as a society. It just would, for me personally. I think I'd probably lean much more towards roles that connect directly to community well-being or maybe creative expression without that constant pressure of chasing a traditional salary.
Right. The financial incentive is equalized.
The focus would shift from what earns the most to what brings me purpose and helps others, or what am I good at that society needs?
Exactly. And it raises that important question for you listening. What might you choose to do? If your passion contributed equally to society's well-being rather than being constrained by its current market value.
It's a deep question.
It's truly transformative. It goes way beyond just economic adjustment. It redefines social status and the very meaning of worth in a fundamental way.
Okay, so pillar one, job guarantee. Pillar two, equal time-based value. What's the third? And then we come to the third, and this is perhaps the most radical departure of the Kalkiist framework.
Yeah.
A moneyless economy.
Moneyless. Okay, this is the big one.
This system proposes the rejection of money itself.
Yeah.
Gone. Money, with all its complexities, profit motives, debt cycles, speculative markets, inflation, financial manipulation, it's simply replaced.
Replaced with what? Barter.
No, not barter. It's replaced by direct exchange, allocation, and digital coordination powered by AI.
Ah, AI is the coordinator.
Yes. What's the profound impact of this? Well, our sources explain that without the distortions of profit, debt, or speculative markets, society can allocate resources based on collective needs and scientific planning. AI transforms from a tool that could potentially displace labor and create insecurity into an engine of human flourishing.
So AI manages the logistics, matches needs with resources.
Exactly. Imagine a system where resources are matched to needs in real time by intelligent systems, completely free from financial speculation, inflation, or that constant pressure to maximize profit. Needs are matched with available resources, efficiently, transparently.
Ensuring that abundance is truly universal, not just for those who can, afford it in a monetary sense.
Precisely.
While that vision of AI-managed resource allocation sounds incredibly efficient and maybe equitable, it also raises questions for me about individual agency.
Like, how much choice do you have?
Exactly. How does Kalkiism ensure personal choice and freedom in consumption, or prevent the system from becoming overly prescriptive about what constitutes needs?
That's a fair point. It's a central planner, even an AI one.
Right. And critically, who designs these AI algorithms? Who sets the parameters? How do you ensure they truly reflect collective well-being without inherent bias, or even the potential for a new kind of centralized control?
Those are absolutely crucial questions, and the sources do touch on this. They suggest the system is designed with transparency at its core, possibly utilizing things like distributed ledgers, think blockchain, to ensure collective oversight and prevent hidden manipulation.
So open algorithms, maybe? Publicly auditable?
That seems to be the implication. The goal isn't presented as dictating individual choices minute by minute, but rather optimizing the distribution of an abundant society's output based on overall needs and preferences. They emphasize AI as a tool, not a ruler, and its parameters would need to be collectively set and constantly reviewed.
Okay, so a lot of public governance built around the AI.
Definitely. But that balance, the one between algorithmic efficiency and individual liberty, would undoubtedly be a key area of ongoing public discussion, debate, and refinement in such a system. It wouldn't be static.
Makes sense. It would have to evolve. Now, if we connect this to the bigger picture, these radical ideas, a moneyless society, time-based value, they aren't entirely pulled out of thin air, are they?
No, not at all.
Humanity has actually explored similar concepts before, right? Though maybe without the tech, the AI and robotics to really make them work on a large scale.
That's what the sources suggest. There are historical echoes.
Yeah, starting with things like ancient commons and gift economies. Our sources point these out. Before money became the dominant force, many societies operated through reciprocity, gift exchange, and communal stewardship of resources.
Right, sharing was built in.
We see examples in various indigenous cultures across the world. Think of the elaborate potlatch ceremonies of the Pacific Northwest, where wealth wasn't hoarded but redistributed to gain status through generosity.
Or African Ubuntu traditions.
Exactly. Emphasizing community, mutual obligation. I am because we are. In these societies, contribution and mutual care were valued, often far more than individual accumulation.
So they weren't just primitive systems.
Not at all. They were complex social structures designed to ensure collective well-being and reinforce social bonds, prioritizing the community over individual wealth hoarding.
Then you have the early utopian thinkers.
Right. Philosophers throughout history, people like Thomas More with his Utopia, Charles Fourier dreaming of cooperative phalansteries, even someone like Karl Marx. They all envisioned systems where equality and cooperation replaced competition.
They saw the problems with the existing systems.
They definitely dreamt of societies free from the ills of greed and class divisions. However, our sources note a key distinction here. Their models, despite being revolutionary for their time, often remained entangled in monetary exchange.
Ah, they didn't quite ditch the money part.
Exactly, which limited their scope, perhaps, and their fundamental departure from the existing system. This is where Kalkiism's proposed break abolishing money itself is highlighted as more fundamental.
Okay, what about more recent history?
Well, we also can't ignore the Soviet experiment and its limits. The Soviet Union certainly attempted centralized planning, which, on the surface, might sound a bit like Kalkiism's resource allocation idea.
But it was very different in practice.
Very different. A crucial distinction was that it retained currency and wage hierarchies. It wasn't moneyless, and it wasn't equal value for time. Plus, it was notoriously crippled by rampant bureaucracy and inefficiency, and of course, suffocating authoritarian control.
The human element of central planning proved flawed.
Deeply flawed. So our sources are clear. Kalkiism learns from this failure. It proposes decentralization through advanced digital systems, using AI for efficiency, and critically, by abolishing money itself, rather than just trying to manage it or suppress its worst effects under state control. It acknowledges the pitfalls of those overly centralized human-managed systems and basically says, let's use technology to overcome those bureaucratic inefficiencies.
Okay, that makes sense. And any modern examples?
And finally, yeah, we see intriguing glimpses of this post-monetary ethos emerging today in what some call the digital commons.
Like open source.
Exactly. Think about the rise of open source software like Linux, collaborative projects like Wikipedia, or even the principles behind some blockchain communities.
Where people contribute without direct payment.
Precisely. These are spaces where millions of people collaborate, innovate, and produce immense value without direct payment. They're driven instead by things like reputation, purpose, and shared vision.
Wikipedia is a huge example, right? Global collaboration, immense value, no direct payment for articles.
It's a prime example. A global encyclopedia built on voluntary contribution. These are presented in the sources as micro-models. While they're relatively small in scale compared to a whole economy, they provide compelling blueprints. They demonstrate that intrinsic motivation and the desire for collective good can drive powerful creation outside of traditional monetary incentives.
Okay, so there's a historical thread and even some modern parallels. That's a really comprehensive look at the context. So what does this all mean for us today, especially with AI and robotics accelerating so fast?
Well, the argument is stark.
The sources argue that Kalkiism doesn't just manage AI. It uniquely positions us to fully leverage its potential for humanity, really transcending the limitations of our current economic models. First, it fundamentally addresses that pervasive problem we talked about, the unemployment trap.
The fear of robots taking jobs.
Exactly. In a capitalist framework, we constantly face the fear of automation leading to layoffs and fear. Companies adopt AI to cut costs, often meaning job losses for human workers. It's almost expected. But in Kalkiism, the narrative completely flips. Automation reduces drudgery while maintaining guaranteed employment for all.
How? Because the jobs shift.
Yes, and because the value isn't tied to the old job structure, machines liberate rather than displace. As robots become more capable of taking over repetitive, dangerous, or unfulfilling tasks, humans are freed from those burdens.
Free to do what, though?
Free to pursue creative, intellectual, or community-oriented work. The purposeful activity we mentioned, all without that existential threat of economic insecurity. AI genuinely shifts from being a potential job destroyer to a human liberator.
Okay, so it tackles unemployment head-on. What else?
Second, Kalkiism focuses intensely on equalizing access to abundance. Right now, let's face it, the benefits of advanced AI and robotics primarily flow to those who own capital, the big corporations, their investors.
The wealth concentration issue again.
Right. But under Kalkiism, the sources state, every individual enjoys equal wages and equal access to the products of automation. The key phrase is, no elite captures the surplus, society as a whole shares it.
So the fruits of automation are distributed equally.
That's the principle. Imagine a world where advanced personalized healthcare or high-quality education tailored to your needs, or abundant sustainable energy systems. Imagine these are universally available resources, developed and managed efficiently by AI and robotics, but available to everyone as a right, not as commodities restricted by price tags or your income level.
That would fundamentally redefine living standards. And human potential, really, for everyone, not just a privileged few.
Exactly. Third, it dramatically redefines productivity.
How so? We usually think of GDP, right?
We do. Our current systems primarily measure productivity in terms of profits, quarterly earnings, gross domestic product, numbers on a spreadsheet. But in a Kalkiist economy, productivity is measured differently. It's measured in improved quality of life, reduced working hours, and expanded creative and spiritual fulfillment.
So human well-being becomes the metric.
Precisely. AI becomes a civilizational partner, not a competitor, actively helping us achieve a higher quality of existence for all. This isn't just about making more stuff, it's about making our lives genuinely better.
Giving us more time for what truly matters.
Yes, and enabling human beings to expand into their higher capacities, creativity, learning, self-actualization, community building, things that GDP doesn't really capture.
Okay, and there was a fourth point.
And finally, a Kalkiist economy, the argument goes, inherently fosters ecological harmony.
How does it connect to the environment?
Well, think about how the relentless pursuit of profit often drives unsustainable resource extraction, right? Rapid consumption, planned obsolescence, severe environmental degradation. It's often baked into the current model.
The profit motive doesn't always align with planetary health?
Often, it directly conflicts. But a moneyless economy, guided by AI resource allocation, can prioritize sustainability. It can balance production with ecological limits, ensuring long-term planetary survival.
Because the AI isn't programmed for profit, but for well-being and sustainability.
That's the idea. What happens when resource allocation is optimized not for short-term financial gain, but for the planet's long-term health and the well-being of all its inhabitants, present and future? It opens up a powerful potential for a truly regenerative and sustainable civilization, where the economy serves the planet, not the other way around.
It's a dense vision, isn't it? So many interconnected parts. Perhaps we could take a moment. What feels most challenging about this whole shift to you before we dive into the practical steps?
That's a good question.
For me, I think just the sheer scale of re-educating a global population away from centuries, millennia really, of monetary thinking, it seems almost insurmountable. How do you change that deep-seated programming?
You're right, that's a huge hurdle. The cultural inertia, for me, maybe it's related. It's about the deep-seated psychological shift. Our identity for so many people is so intertwined with our job titles, our earnings, our perceived status based on wealth.
Yeah, what do you do is often the first question people ask.
Exactly. So to move to a system where all hours are equal value and money literally disappears, that would require an almost spiritual reevaluation of personal worth for many. It's not just economic, it's profoundly cultural. It hits right at the ego, maybe.
Absolutely. Those challenges are real, no doubt. However, the sources don't just leave it hanging as a grand, abstract vision. They actually provide a clear roadmap for practical implementation.
Okay, so how do they suggest we get there?
They outline concrete, phased steps to move from theory to reality. It's designed as a gradual, careful approach, specifically intended to mitigate those very transition risks and psychological hurdles we're discussing.
Phased approach, okay. What's step one?
The first practical step involves transitioning to time-based wages. And crucially, the sources suggest that pilot programs could begin in localized communities rather than attempting an immediate global overhaul.
Start small, test it out.
Exactly. In these communities, digital ledgers track hours instead of wages. This means every participant contributes and receives based on time units, and these contributions are transparently coordinated through AI platforms.
So you can see it working in your town, maybe.
Yeah, picture a community where a doctor's hour of service grants them, say, an hour's worth of a local farmer's produce, or maybe an hour of a teacher's time for their kids, all meticulously tracked by these intelligent digital systems. It's about building trust and demonstrating feasibility on a smaller, manageable scale first.
Okay, pilots with time ledgers. What else?
Complementing this is the infrastructure for digital resource allocation. AI algorithms are envisioned to track supply chains, predict needs, and allocate resources transparently.
So the AI manages the where does stuff go part.
Yes. And to ensure trust and accountability in this moneyless system, the sources mention using technologies like blockchain or distributed ledgers. This means goods are distributed according to collective planning, not monetary purchase.
So AI acts as a highly efficient and hopefully impartial coordinator.
That's the goal, ensuring that what society needs gets produced and delivered where it's needed, minimizing waste, maximizing fairness, and importantly, free from the distortions of the profit motive or speculative hoarding.
Got it. And the jobs, if everyone's guaranteed one.
Right. Next, we have universal job assignment systems. In a world with a job guarantee, how do people actually find their roles? It's not a free-for-all.
How does that matching happen?
The sources explain that every individual is matched to tasks through preference, skill, and societal need. It's a multi-factor matching process.
Preference, skill, and need. Okay.
Furthermore, AI systems dynamically adjust assignments as conditions shift, ensuring both efficiency and personal fulfillment.
So it's not static. If
Yeah.
needs change or you want to change roles.
The system adapts. Imagine an AI system maybe more like a sophisticated career counselor combined with a societal needs database that helps you discover your most fulfilling and societally valuable contribution. It takes into account your aptitudes, your desires, but also ensures all the necessary societal tasks get covered. This moves beyond the old paradigm of scarcity-driven job markets to one focused on purposeful contribution and optimal skill utilization for everyone.
Okay, that's quite a system. And then the big one, getting rid of money. How do they phase that in?
And finally, yes, the sources outline a carefully phased approach to eliminating money step by step. They stress this isn't an overnight flick of a switch, which, as you pointed out, could indeed cause chaos and resistance.
Right, people would panic.
Exactly. Instead, it's a careful, phased implementation designed to mitigate those transition risks and gradually integrate society into the new paradigm over time. The sources detail 4 phases.
4 phases, okay.
Phase 1 involves establishing a parallel economy. Time-based systems begin to operate alongside existing money-based systems. People can choose to participate in the moneyless economy, maybe for certain goods or services, while still having access to traditional monetary systems. This allows for experimentation, learning, and gradual adoption without forcing anyone initially.
So you can opt in, see how it feels.
Right. Then in phase 2, major public services, think health, education, maybe basic housing, become moneyless. These essential services are taken out of the market system entirely. This would immediately and profoundly impact the quality of life for millions, establishing these essentials as universal rights rather than commodities you have to buy.
That would be huge. A big step towards decommodification.
A very big step. Phase 3 sees the gradual abolition of wages and prices more broadly, with AI allocation covering all or most essential needs. This is where the moneyless system really begins to dominate daily life, with AI managing the vast majority of resource distribution based on the time contribution system.
So money starts to fade away.
It becomes less and less relevant. And finally, phase 4 is the full transition to a moneyless society, where currency is entirely a thing of the past, relegated to history books. This careful, iterative process is presented as crucial to ensure stability and public acceptance throughout what is undoubtedly a revolutionary society-wide shift.
Okay, that phased approach makes it sound, well, maybe less like jumping off a cliff and more like building a bridge.
That seems to be the intention: gradual, managed, participatory.
Okay, let's unpack this further then, because what's truly compelling about Kalkiism, as the sources present it, isn't just the theory. It's how these seemingly radical ideas are actually taking root, or at least being actively pursued in the real world, specifically in Nepal.
Yeah, the Nepal story is where theory meets practice, potentially.
The sources present Nepal as a nation standing at a historic crossroads, a unique moment with an extraordinary opportunity to, as they put it, leapfrog outdated systems entirely. The bold vision here, laid out in the material, is to transition first from a cash-based economy to a fully cashless economy, and then use that as a springboard towards the ultimate goal, a truly moneyless economy. This isn't just vague aspiration, it's presented as a concrete roadmap.
A step-by-step plan for a nation.
Exactly. The first crucial step outlined for Nepal is building a cashless economy. This means a decisive move to abolish physical cash, ensuring that every transaction must flow through transparent digital channels.
Going fully digital with payments.
Right. And the immediate profound benefit claimed for this is that it ends corruption, or at least makes it incredibly difficult. Imagine a society where there are no hidden bribes in envelopes, no untracked flows of illicit money. Everything becomes visible in the digital ledger.
Transparency as an anti-corruption tool.
A very powerful one, potentially. This simple but profound shift is also argued to bring greater financial inclusion to all citizens, even in the remotest villages, thanks to widespread mobile networks.
So everyone gets banked, essentially, via their phone.
Yeah, you can visualize the immediate impact. Farmers selling their produce directly, maybe getting paid instantly without predatory intermediaries, instant traceable remittances for families with members working abroad, Small businesses thriving because they're not being constantly preyed upon by illicit demands or hidden costs. It's about transparency and empowering every citizen economically.
Okay, so cashless first. That seems achievable. Many countries are moving that way. What's step 2 in Nepal's plan?
Step 2 is equally transformative, maybe even more so.
Yeah.
State-owned banking and zero interest.
Whoa. Nationalize the banks.
That's the proposal.
Yeah.
A cashless society, our sources argue, cannot truly succeed, cannot truly serve the people if the banks remain private monopolies driven solely by profit. So the roadmap dictates that all banks must be brought under public ownership.
Why? To ensure the financial infrastructure serves the public good.
Precisely. To ensure it serves the people, not just shareholders. And with state-owned banks, a really revolutionary possibility opens up. Interest rates can be driven to zero.
Zero interest. No more borrowing costs.
That's the idea. This liberates citizens and businesses from what the sources call the suffocating burden of debt. It encourages genuine innovation because capital becomes accessible without crippling interest payments, and it dismantles speculative profiteering based on just lending money.
Imagine starting a business without that debt load, or buying a home.
It changes the game entirely. Now, when corruption is dismantled, hypothetically, and banks genuinely serve the nation, not private profit, immense resources are freed up. Resources that were previously siphoned off by private interests or lost to illicit activities.
Okay, so where does that freed up money go?
This leads to what the sources call the social dividend. Nepal, they suggest, could then invest these reclaimed resources directly in its people by guaranteeing things like high-quality education, universal health care, and free legal services as fundamental rights. Not luxuries you have to buy, but rights guaranteed to all.
Investing in human capital on a massive scale.
Yes. An educated, healthy, and legally empowered population becomes an engine of growth in itself. Productivity soars, innovation flourishes, and human dignity becomes non-negotiable. Just consider for a moment what your society could achieve if those essential services were universally free and of the highest quality for every single citizen.
It's a powerful thought, but sounds expensive. What about growth?
Skeptics might call such claims impossible, idealistic. But the sources assert significant growth potential for Nepal under this model. Freed from those huge drains, corruption, burdensome debt, private interest extraction from banking, Nepal could channel these newly available resources directly into critical areas. Infrastructure development, massive green energy initiatives, cutting-edge technology adoption.
So targeted investment replaces private profit extraction.
Exactly. With a youthful workforce and potentially a re-engaged diaspora drawn back by opportunity, it's claimed the country could realistically achieve growth rates of 15–20% annually.
15 to 20%, that's astronomical.
It is.
Yeah.
But the argument is that removing those systemic drags makes such rapid transformation possible. Such a pace, the sources suggest, would rapidly transform Nepal from one of the poorer countries into a model of sustainable prosperity for the entire world.
A showcase, potentially.
And crucially, this whole cashless, zero-interest, high-investment transformation is emphatically not the endpoint. It's seen as preparation for something more radical, a moneyless economy.
Ah, so this is all leading back to the core Kalkiist idea.
Yes, this is step 3, the road to moneyless. The sources reiterate that in this ultimate system, time replaces currency as the measure of value. There's that job guarantee for every citizen, equal hourly work value for all labor, and AI and robotics manage allocation of resources, thereby allowing scarcity to give way to abundance.
So the cashless phase cleans up the system and prepares people culturally and technologically.
That seems to be the logic. It reinforces that gradual, logical progression, emphasizing that a corruption-free, cashless, zero-interest Nepal is the necessary first step to prepare society psychologically, technologically, and ethically for the final leap into full Kalkiism.
Okay, it's a bold, multi-stage vision. What's truly fascinating here, though, is that beyond this meticulously laid out economic roadmap, Nepal has actually experienced a dramatic societal transformation recently, led by its youth. And it aligns strikingly with these Kalkiist principles.
Right. This isn't just theory anymore. Something actually happened.
Something major actually happened. This isn't just economic theory being debated in seminars. It's being manifested, or at least strongly pushed for, by a real-world revolution.
So tell us about the revolution itself. What happened?
The sources describe it as an almost impossible feat, achieved by Nepal's Gen Z youth in an astonishingly short time frame, less than 12 hours.
12 hours to overthrow a government.
Incredible, isn't it? It apparently began as a peaceful protest. Young people demanding accountability from what they saw as a corrupt, authoritarian regime. but it quickly escalated.
Oh.
Tragically, the sources report more than 70 lives have been lost to government violence. A really somber detail that underscores the bravery but also the stakes involved, the determination of these young people.
70 lives lost, but they kept going.
They did not back down. That's the key phrase used. Instead, they achieved a breathtaking political overthrow. They didn't just target the ruling government, they toppled not only the ruling government, but also swept away all three entrenched, corrupt political parties that had dominated Nepali politics for decades.
All the old guard gone.
Swept away. And then the parliament building itself was dissolved and then burned.
Burned. Wow, that's symbolic.
An incredibly powerful act, symbolizing, as the sources put it, the end of an era of exploitation and broken promises. And from these ashes, an interim government was swiftly installed. Crucially, it drew its legitimacy from the people themselves, especially this dynamic new generation that had forced the change.
So, not a military coup, but a popular uprising installing a new temporary leadership.
Exactly. It highlights the speed, the decisiveness, and the profound symbolic actions that marked this historic shift, driven by youth.
What was the vision behind it? What were they demanding?
Well, the driving force behind this revolution was a clear vision, deeply aligned with the Kalkiism Research Center, KRC, which is based in Kathmandu.
Ah, the KRC connection again?
Yes. Our sources state very clearly that the key demands of the Gen Z revolution align closely with the framework developed by the Kathmandu-based Kalkiism Research Center. These weren't just random angry slogans. They represent a coherent new social contract for the nation.
Okay, what were these demands?
The sources list 5 core demands that became the rallying cry. First, free speech. Every Nepali has the right to speak, write, and protest without fear of reprisal. Fundamental.
Okay.
Second, a corruption-free nation. A non-negotiable demand that Nepal must achieve zero corruption, with officials held strictly accountable through transparency and new mechanisms.
Zero corruption. That's ambitious.
Very. Third, equality with prosperity. Rejecting the old idea that you have to choose between economic growth and social fairness. They demanded shared prosperity where dignity is guaranteed to all.
Growth that benefits everyone.
Fourth, job guarantees for all. Echoing the Kalkiist pillar directly, every Nepali will have guaranteed employment, aiming specifically to end the mass migration of youth seeking work abroad just for survival. Opportunity at home.
Bring the young people back.
And a truly groundbreaking fifth demand, recognition of household work. Domestic labor, primarily done by women, which has been long ignored and undervalued, must finally be recognized as legitimate work and compensated fairly.
Wow. Valuing care work and domestic labor equally. That's huge anywhere.
It really is. And these revolutionary demands, as the sources stress, are explicitly linked back to those core principles of the Kalkiist economy we discussed earlier. It shows how a theoretical framework, developed locally, provided a practical blueprint for real-world political action.
So why does this revolution matter beyond Nepal? What are the global implications?
The sources present Nepal's Gen Z revolution as not just a national event, but potentially a model for the world. It powerfully demonstrates, they argue, that change need not take decades. It can arrive in hours when people are united, disciplined, digitally connected, and driven by a clear, compelling vision.
So a blueprint for rapid change elsewhere.
That's the suggestion. The lessons for the world are presented as profound. First, authoritarian regimes can fall overnight when confronted by a united, digitally savvy, and crucially fearless generation. They just might be more brittle than they appear. Second, corruption can be dismantled by decisive mass action that fundamentally resets the system rather than just tinkering or swapping one corrupt group for another.
A deep clean, not just surface changes.
And third, youth-led visions can successfully replace old, tired party politics with new models of democracy rooted in participation, technology, and fairness. New ideas, new energy, new methods.
That's incredibly hopeful.
Consider the hope and inspiration this could offer to young people globally, right? Especially those facing similar challenges. Unemployment, deeply entrenched corruption, governments that seem completely unresponsive to their needs. Nepal's example suggests perhaps that the future doesn't automatically belong to the entrenched elites of yesterday, but to the determined and visionary youth of today, if they organize.
That's truly remarkable, a potential game changer. Now, with such a dramatic, rapid, and, well, successful revolution, you often see attempts to discredit it, to attribute it to external forces, to downplay the local agency.
It's a common tactic, absolutely, undermine the legitimacy.
And our sources directly address one such prominent accusation that emerged. They mentioned the myth of CIA engineering.
Ah, the foreign hand argument.
Exactly. Some commentators, and the sources specifically point to large sections of the indie media, apparently tried to discredit the revolution by claiming it was all a CIA-orchestrated plot. This is a familiar trope, isn't it? Blaming external actors for internal uprisings, especially in smaller nations.
Happens all the time. It deflects from the real issues.
However, the sources offer a pretty powerful counterargument suggesting this claim crumbles under scrutiny. They ask a very pointed, almost sarcastic question. If the CIA could truly engineer an effective anti-corruption revolution, why would it start in Nepal? When, as the source bluntly states, the United States is among the most corrupt nations in the world itself.
Oof. Turning the accusation back around.
They don't hold back. The source cites specific examples of what it deems U.S. corruption. Private sector greed that manipulates markets. Public sector dysfunction where lobbying overrides democratic will. The Wall Street excess that crashed the global economy in 2008. Those Capitol Hill deals where money buys votes and influence. And the pervasive influence of the military-industrial complex that thrives on endless wars.
So the argument is essentially, clean your own house first.
Pretty much. It highlights what the source perceives as the inherent hypocrisy of the accusation. If such a powerful capability for engineering genuine anti-corruption revolutions truly existed within the CIA, logic dictates it would likely be applied at home, where the source sees plenty of targets, before being deployed in Nepal.
It's a strong rebuttal based on perceived self-interest.
The sources go further, too. They describe this reflex, seeing the CIA's hand in every grassroots uprising, especially in the Global South, as a form of mental slavery, a lingering hangover from colonial times.
Mental slavery, that's strong language.
It is. The argument is that this mindset denies local people their own agency. It fundamentally underestimates the power and awareness of a digitally connected, politically aware, and socially restless Gen Z. It's framed as a patronizing and outdated way of thinking, basically implying that local populations are incapable of independent thought or organized revolutionary action without some Western puppet master pulling the strings.
Underestimating the power of local movements and ideas.
Exactly. The Nepali youth, the sources emphatically suggest, are not simply puppets. They acted on their own understanding, their own frustrations, their own aspirations. And instead of foreign interference, the sources point directly, and with detailed evidence, to the Kalkiism Research Center, KRC, as the true source of the revolution's guiding principles and slogans.
So homegrown ideology, not imported plots.
That's the core argument. This is presented as crucial evidence. All the major slogans of the Gen Z revolution trace directly back to the work of the Kathmandu-based Kalkiism Research Center, KRC. The KRC, we learn, has been actively developing frameworks for a corruption-free society, job guarantees for all, and recognition of household labor for years. This wasn't an overnight phenomenon cooked up for the protests. It was years of intellectual groundwork, research, policy development, and community engagement.
Laying the foundation long before the spark.
Precisely. And the evidence for KRC's influence is compelling, according to the sources. Videos of KRC leaders explaining these core ideas have amassed millions of views online. This clearly shows widespread dissemination and popular engagement with their ideas, reaching a broad audience well before the revolution.
So people knew these concepts already.
Yes. Furthermore, tens of thousands of students across Nepal have been trained in KRC workshops over the past 2 years. This indicates a deeply embedded, grassroots educational effort, building capacity and understanding among the very generation that led the change.
Training the future leaders and activists.
And perhaps most tellingly, the sources claim the chants and banners seen on the streets during the revolution mirror almost word for word the teachings KRC has been spreading.
Direct linguistic connection.
Exactly. This detailed evidence strongly supports the argument that the revolution was an organic eruption of Nepali youth, grounded in their own institutions, their own intellectual work, fueled by their own disillusionment, not foreign manipulation. It's presented as a testament to Nepali agency, study, and the power of ideas developed locally.
Okay, That paints a very different picture from the CIA plot narrative. It emphasizes local roots and intellectual preparation.
It sounds like.
Now, if we connect this back to the bigger picture, beyond the economics, beyond the political revolution, this deep dive reveals something else, doesn't it? A profound spiritual and prophetic dimension that seems central to the Kalkiist movement, especially in South Asia.
Right. This isn't just politics or economics for everyone involved.
Not at all. For many followers, these dramatic events in Nepal and the broader Kalkiist ideas are not just seen as political or economic shifts. They're viewed as the unfolding of ancient divine prophecies. This perspective has ignited what the sources call a powerful Kalkiist awakening, stirring profound spiritual and cultural conversations across South Asia.
An awakening based on prophecy.
Yes. At the very heart of this is a fundamental Hindu concept: the cyclical nature of time. The idea is that we are currently living in the Kali Yuga, which is traditionally understood as an age of darkness or age of vice, characterized by discord, materialism, ignorance, and widespread corruption.
Sounds familiar, some might say.
Indeed. Many followers believe Kalkiism and the events surrounding it mark the prophesied end of this dark era. This belief is intrinsically tied to Jesa, the founder of the Kalkiism Research Center. He is widely regarded by his followers as Bhagavan Kalki.
Kalki, the final avatar.
Yes, the 10th and final avatar of Vishnu, the preserver deity in the Hindu pantheon, who is prophesied to appear at the end of the Kali Yuga to destroy wickedness, restore dharma, righteousness, and usher in a new golden age, the Satya Yuga.
So they see him as fulfilling this ancient prophecy.
They do. Believers point to remarkable fulfillments, stating that 11 of the 12 major prophecies about Kalki found in ancient texts have already come true in Jesa's life. These prophecies apparently cover everything from his birth circumstances and background to his specific teachings, writings, and leadership role.
11 out of 12, that's quite specific.
It is. And his mission's cornerstone for believers is the Kalkiist Manifesto. He himself describes this document, according to the sources, as the last book of economics on Earth, offering the practical roadmap to end the Kali Yuga through establishing justice, equality, and ultimately that moneyless future. This elevates the economic blueprint we discussed into a sacred spiritual text, imbuing it with divine purpose.
Okay, so Jesa as Kalki. Who else fits into this prophetic narrative?
Then there's Umashankar Prasad. He's the current leader of the Kalkiism Research Center and is also, according to the sources, widely viewed as Nepal's future prime minister following the revolution.
The potential future leader.
Yes. And for followers, he embodies Arjuna reborn.
Arjuna, from the Mahabharata, the warrior prince.
Exactly. For those familiar with the ancient Indian epic, the Mahabharata, Arjuna was the central warrior prince, renowned for his skill, but also for his profound philosophical dialogue with Lord Krishna on the battlefield, which forms the basis of the Bhagavad Gita.
So what's Umashankar Prasad's role in this modern context?
In this modern interpretation, Umashankar Prasad is believed to have helped Lord Kalki compose the Kalkiist Manifesto, echoing Arjuna's crucial role in helping deliver the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita to the world. This positions the manifesto not just as a political or economic document, but as the final roadmap for humanity to exit the Kali Yuga, a guide for both spiritual and societal transformation.
A modern Arjuna delivering the final scripture, in a sense.
That's the interpretation. Kathmandu's popular mayor, Balin Shah, is also seen as playing a central, prophesied role within this framework.
Mayor Balin, how does he fit in?
He is interpreted by many followers through the lens of his earlier incarnations, specifically as the human incarnation of Sheshnag.
Sheshnag, the cosmic serpent.
Yes, the eternal cosmic serpent upon whom Lord Vishnu rests in Hindu mythology. Sheshnag symbolizes creation, stability, and the very foundation of the cosmos. This interpretation adds profound spiritual weight to Mayor Balin's actions and his role in the current transformation.
So a figure of cosmic stability amidst change.
Perhaps, and crucially, the sources mention that Mayor Balin apparently warned that Singha Durbar, the seat of Nepal's old political establishment, would burn, a prophecy that, for followers, has now come true with the symbolic burning of the parliament during the Gen Z revolution. This is seen as undeniable proof of his divine connection and the inevitable unfolding of destiny.
A fulfilled prophecy adding to his significance.
Precisely. And remarkably, even India's Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, is integrated into this cosmic narrative by some Kalkiist followers.
Modi. How?
He is framed in Kalkiist thought as a figure of divine assistance, seen potentially as Hanuman reborn.
Hanuman, the monkey god known for his devotion and strength.
Yes. Just as Hanuman, the devoted monkey god, played a crucial role in assisting Lord Ram in the epic Ramayana, Modi is believed by some within this framework to be tasked with assisting Lord Kalki in bringing the Kali Yuga to an end, perhaps through regional cooperation or other means.
Wow, so key figures seen as reincarnations of epic heroes and deities.
For many Kalkists, yes. This perceived alignment of leaders Kalki embodied as Jay Saw, Arjuna as Umashankar Prasad, Sheshnag as Mayor Balin, and potential Hanuman as Narendra Modi marks a cosmic convergence unprecedented in human history.
A unique moment in cosmic time.
That's the belief. This perspective elevates the Kalkiist manifesto beyond just politics or economics. It becomes both a political charter and a spiritual scripture, uniting youth inspired by its practical solutions and elder believers moved by its prophetic significance. It creates a powerful shared vision of a new, just world, signaling for them the end of Kali Yuga and the beginning of a new age of light.
It's a potent combination, radical economics and profound spirituality.
It certainly gives the movement a deeper, multifaceted meaning for its followers, fueling both political action and spiritual hope.
What an incredible deep dive this has been, truly exploring a vision that's, well, shaking up conventional thinking about almost everything. Economics, governance, technology, even spiritual destiny. We've journeyed from a pretty fundamental critique of our current economic systems, both capitalism and socialism, to the really radical principles of Kalkiism.
That moneyless, AI-driven economy.
Exactly, with a job guarantee for all and equal wages measured not in dollars or rupees, but in that universal denominator of time.
It's a lot to take in.
It really is.
Yeah.
We've seen how these ideas, while sounding futuristic, actually find historical echoes in ancient commons, in gift economies, in utopian thought. But how Kalkiism uniquely positions humanity, potentially, to harness the full, liberating power of AI and robotics, rather than just fearing them.
Moving from scarcity to abundance, theoretically.
And most compellingly, perhaps, we've explored its practical application, or at least its attempted application and revolutionary impact in the real world, specifically in Nepal. We saw how a youth-led movement there is dramatically trying to reshape the nation's economic and cultural landscape based on these principles.
And pushing back against the narrative of foreign interference.
Right. We looked at how attempts to discredit this organic revolution as some kind of foreign plot seemed to fall apart under scrutiny, revealing instead the profound local agency and the years of intellectual groundwork laid by the Kalkiism Research Center.
Grounded in local ideas and local needs.
And finally, we touched on those powerful spiritual and prophetic dimensions that frame this entire movement for its followers, seeing these current events not just as politics, but as the unfolding of ancient prophecies heralding a new era for humanity.
A convergence of the material and the spiritual.
So, whether you, listening, resonate most with the economic blueprint itself, or perhaps you're inspired by the story of the youth revolution in Nepal, or maybe you're just intrigued by that prophetic dimension, it certainly asks us all, I think, to fundamentally rethink our core assumptions about wealth, work, and what truly holds worth in human life.
It definitely challenges the status quo, and maybe this raises one last important question for all of us to consider as we move forward from this deep dive. In an age that's increasingly defined by exponential technology, AI, robotics, genetic engineering, and just vast, overwhelming information, perhaps the true revolution isn't just about what we create with these powerful tools.
But how we manage them, how we share them.
Exactly, but maybe even deeper, how we fundamentally value and share the fruits of that creation within society. Could the ultimate measure of our civilization looking forward truly become something like hours of contribution and lifetimes of meaning, rather than just dollars or rupees or GDP points?
A shift from quantity to quality, maybe.
Perhaps. It's a radical thought. We encourage you to continue your own exploration of these ideas, this potential future, and how humanity might just redefine itself beyond the constraints we often take for granted.